Well, hello, friends. Cheryl here with inkedpulp. I've got a fun project today. I was browsing the internet last night and I ran across this great little project, and it was on Facebook. The channel was the Paper Sprite, and she showed how to make this. I said, "Oh, I gotta make this. This is wonderful." So I will put her link in the description to her video, and then we'll go through it here. So here's what it is. It's an interactive fold-out note card. Now, I didn't get my measurements exactly right on the prototype, so it's you probably can't tell, but it's just a hair wonky. But I did a prototype, and now we're going to do the real thing. So this is what it is. These flip up, and then this top flips up. These flip out, and then you have a journaling space at the bottom. Isn't that wonderful? You could put writing paper on the sides here. You can also decorate. I didn't do a lot of decoration on this because I just wanted to get it done. But you could put, whatever you wanted for decorations. Now, on this particular one, it is not decorated on the back. So, on this one, it would probably be glued into a page and you would open it out. If you want to decorate on the back, you certainly can. And then you just have it sitting in a pocket. But let's look at how to make this, because this is just really awesome. All right. And I'm going to give you measurements, so be prepared. We're going to cut. Now, she used black cardstock, and I'm following suit only because it shows up so well with the contrast in the decorative paper that we're going to use. So you don't have to use black. You can use, obviously, whatever. And you want a 6x8. Keep this because we're going to use it later. So we're going to use a 6x8 piece of paper, cardstock. And then I move all these tools over here. These are all the tools we're going to use. I'm not going to go through them. Y'all can see them, and you'll see them as we use them. So on the scoring board, what we're going to do is we're going to go in 2 inches. Okay, this is the width, right? We're going to go, did I hit that? Because that was way out of whack. All right, we're going to go in 2 inches. And score. And then we're going to go 2 inches from the other side and score. Okay? Then we're going to turn it long ways. Oh, I didn't get that cut evenly. Or the page was crooked by design. That's going to be a problem. You need to get these fairly even. So let me go back and we'll do it again, because either the page was crooked or I did something wrong, and that's entirely possible. I've been known to do things wrong a time or two. But this is the real world of crafting, right? Okay. That looks correct. And then let's go to the 6 inch mark. Okay. And let's do this again. Okay, there's 8 inches and there's 6 inches. Now, I could have shut off the video and started over and, re-recorded it. But, sometimes that stuff happens, and it happens to everybody. Okay. There's our 2 inches. There, that looks good. And then on this one, it's 6 inches wide. We want to score it right in the middle at 3 inches. Okay, so did y'all get that? 8x6 cardstock, whatever color you want. And then score 2 inches from the edges on the wide side and score right down the middle on the long side. All right. Now, we can fold that if we want and give it a good press with the bone. Okay. It actually looks much better than the first one I did. Okay, so now we've got it. We've got this. And what I'm going to show you on this prototype here is that you will see we have this. We don't need these 2 sections right here. Okay, so we're going to cut those out. You can use a craft knife if you want. I actually am going to use the craft knife. I find I get better cuts that way than trying to do it with scissors. I'm just not, I don't know if my, my spacing gene is defective, but I don't know. I just don't see. I had that when I took geometry in junior high school. I had Ms. Brown for my teacher, and she was so wonderful. I cut that a little more because I didn't get it right on the fold all the way down, but I had Ms. Brown. Algebra, I did great. Straight A's in algebra. But when it came to geometry, I couldn't visualize like the 3D spaces, the planes that were in 3D and it would rotate and stuff. I could not visualize that in my head. And to this day, I have a problem with that. When I was making a lot of jewelry, it was a problem. It's a little bit of a problem in the crafting space, but not so much. Not like it was with jewelry where you had to make it 3D and... Okay. There's that. And that. All right. A couple of scraps for you. All right. So here we are now. Yep. I didn't quite. See, even with the straight edge, you've got to get it. You've got to really cut off all. Oh, I'm going to cut using my cutting mat as my ruler. You really got to get it down. I'll show you in just a second here why. You've got to get all of that fold out of there. Because this has to be able to fold down. And I've got a little bit of space there. I need a little more space here. So just, shave off a little bit at a time until until it closes easily, because that will impact your end design if it can't close. You may end up having to refold some things. I would just like to make it right from the beginning. All right, there we go. Perfect. Perfect. Just shave off a little tiny bit. And now we have this. Okay. Now we're going to round the corners if you want to. You don't have to, but I am going to round my corners because I like the way it looks. See, I like the way that looks. All right, so I'm going to Come on. I'm going to round all the corners, and then we're going to open it up and round the corners on the inside as well. This is just the cutest thing. This would be a great little gift to give a teacher to help your child make at home, and then give it to a teacher as a little notepad, and the student can, put a nice little message in there or on the front. Like I said, I really haven't, decorated. So there we go. There's all the corners rounded. And if you have any that need a little help, just help them along. But there we go. So yeah, I was thinking you could put a die cut on here and glue it just on one side. The other side, you'd have to leave it sitting up on top, or you wouldn't be able to, fold it up. But you could put die cuts on there. You could do, whatever on the front you wanted. You could put some sayings. You could, you could decorate here. To the best teacher in the world, from your best student in the world. So yeah, lots of opportunity for decorating. All right. So we've got this now. Now we're going to cover the front and the back of the top flap with decorative paper. Now, I will tell you that it's easier. It doesn't get so bulky if you use a thin scrapbook paper or thin decorative paper. You could use jelly prints. You could use book page, the thin scrapbook papers. And I'm going to cut this down a little. And one thing I did not do when I made the first one is I did everything by eyeball. And I didn't write down measurements. So this time, this doesn't have to be exact. I'm just making it smaller here, because I only need it as tall as the page here. So this time I'm going to write down measurements. And if I measure this top to bottom, it's exactly 3 inches. So if I want, 1/16, 1/16. So if I want 1/16 at the top for like a little border and the bottom for a little border, I'm going to cut this paper 2/16, which is 1/8. So cover the front and back. I'm sorry, this was 3 inches minus 1/8. So this is going to be 2 7/8 inches tall. And that's right at 4. So we're going to be 3 7/8 wide. Okay, did I do that right? So I want a 16th here, and then another 16th. So 3, and I think that's right. We'll do 1 and see. All right, so we need 2 papers that size, right? Because we're going to cover the outside. I'm going to put this real pretty bit here, and then on the inside, I'm going to move over here and do this bit. So let's cut our paper, and I hope I did my math correctly. No guarantees of that without a calculator. And what's funny is that when I was in school, we didn't, just cut that a little bit off. We did not have calculators. We did, but we weren't allowed to bring them out like during tests and stuff. So let's see. We want this to be 2 7/8. That's 3. So there's 2 4/8, which is a half. 5, 6, 7. Okay. 2 7/8. And then I want 3 7/8. And if this isn't exactly right, at least it'll be symmetrical. Okay, we want 3 7/8. So there's 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. That's going to go on the front. And it's it's fine top and bottom, but wide. It's a little wide. So I'm going to cut just a hair off of it. And this is, even though we use trimmers and all kinds of stuff, there's no telling if we're getting it exactly right. So let's look at that again. Side to side, top to bottom, we've got just a little bit each side. That works perfectly. And then I want on the inside, I like this piece right here. So I'm going to cut it off here for the side. And then we're going to go, did 3 7/8, so we'll go 3. Nope. Let's see, we have 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7. That's way off. Okay, there's 2 7/8. And this is the right size, so I am just going to cut them even. Y'all, I am terrible, and I was pretty good in math. But when it comes to measurements, I am horrible. Horrible, I tell you. All right, then we're going to round the corners so that it matches. And this is why I recommend using a thinner piece of paper, because if you put thick cardstock over cardstock and you have 2 layers, it just gets really thick. So I think you're better off using thinner paper. Now, you can ink this up if you want. I personally don't think it really needs it. At least not on this paper. Now, I have one here that came out kind of squared off. There we go. And let's do this one. Just make sure they're all really round. Okay. I don't know. Let's start with the outside. So that's going to go on there just like that. And I am going to use art glitter glue, only because that's what she used. And I got to imagine this is going to get, some use with it opening and closing. And you want it stuck down real good. Now, one of the things I was going to mention, and I think I just figured this out, maybe you guys all know this, but when you'll put a piece of paper down and then after it dries, you can see where the art glitter glue was on the other side. I think that happens. I think I was real heavy-handed with the art glitter glue. And I got too much. And so it kind of showed through. That's not perfectly straight on there, but it's good enough. Isn't that pretty? Then we're going to lift this up and put this one on here. So I have found that if I just do real light, passes with the bottle and don't put it on so heavy-handed. Make sure I'm getting this on the right way. It goes this way. If I'm not so heavy-handed, I don't have that problem as much. So you just want to kind of center it as best you can. All right, so there we go. Okay, and then that's going to fold over the top. Now, what we need to do start at another one. We need to put a mark right at 2 inches. For the center, and check your center because mine is off by like a 1/16 of an inch. So 1, 2, I'm going to back that up to just there, and then we're going to do the same thing at the top. Okay, and we're going to draw a line very lightly so that you can erase it. Let's see where I put my first. Oh, there it is. There it is. Well, that's not right. Hang on. That's not where my line was. All right. And we're just going to very lightly draw a line. Okay, and then you're going to measure down 3/8 of an inch from this top. Lots of measurements on this one. But once you get it, you can eyeball it. Do it once with the measurements, and then I don't think you have to 1, 2, 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. All right. So now what we're going to do, we need to make the slit for the, where'd my prototype go? I know I just had it here. Oh, there it is. We're going to make the slit here for these flaps to come up through. And so what we want to do, and you can do this with a cutter if you're good at that, you're going to go a little bit to the left of that line. How much? Just enough to, if you do it right at the line, you don't have enough space for the, and then we're going to go a little bit to the right of the line. If you do it right on the line, you don't have enough to poke the little flaps up through. So I'm going to find the line, and there's no set. I'm going to do it this way so I can see my. Nope. There's no set amount of space. In fact, after I made my prototype, I had to go back and cut it just a little bit wider because it wasn't wide enough. But better to do that than to make it too wide and floppy. And I didn't put my cutting mat down there. I should have. Okay, you probably can't see this real well because I can't see it super well. I'm just going to make sure those lines cut through, and then I'm going to cut across at the bottom. And across at the top. Now that should come right out of there. Make sure we went all the way through. And there you go. There you go. Now, the other thing that you need to do is make sure that your flaps don't overlap. And again, you know, none of the cutters are exact. So you want to fold these two in half, and I see that this one overlaps. Let me go to the middle. Okay, this is exactly 4. So I'm going to make a mark at 2 inches on the inside here. Okay. And I'm going to lay these back down, and I can see that this one needs to be cut down a hair. This one looks just about right. So this one needs like a 1/16 of an inch, not much. So I'm going to cut that down, and then I'll have to round the corner again. But I'm going to cut that down because if they don't line up in the middle, that's what happened with my other one. Then see, and I did the same thing again. I cut it off a little too much. Just shave off a little bit. I can make this work. I'll show you how we still make this work. But I did the same thing I did last time. So see how they're not coming together exactly? That will still work, but it'll just be awkward. All right, that's pretty much it for almost it for the measuring. All right, so here's this. Now we need 2 circles from not yet. We're going to do 2 circles out of the black cardstock because these are going to be the flaps and you want them sturdy. So take that piece of black cardstock that you saved, cut 2 circles out. Okay. And then we're going to fold them in half. We'll start decorating the rest of it here in a minute. All right, so we're going to fold those in half. Then when you open it up, you're going to put glue on the inside of one of them. Doesn't matter which one you start with. And you're just going to put that up against the paper about center. And the glue is on the inside, right? So it's in here. You just glue that down. Now, what I'm going to do you do the same thing on the other side, but what I'm going to do on the other side is I'm not going to put it right up to the paper because I want to cover up that little gap that I had. Okay, so I'm going to put this down and I'm just going to make sure that they line up and make that perfect 2-inch circle. And they come together. Okay, see if you get a little glue in here, don't worry, we're going to cover that up. All right, so you see that? They're together, and those are your flaps. So now, if you put that through, and you kind of have to work it a little to get it to stay down, but that's what that's going to look like. Okay. Okay, now we're going to cut, or we're going to do decorative pieces for these side flaps. And what I got for that was this paper. I thought this would be pretty on here. So these little flaps need to be, this is 3 inches. One eighth, so 2 7/8 by 1 7/8. Okay, and I'm just, now what I did on the first one, you do not have to measure these. What I did is I just put the paper upside down and I put it in there kind of where I wanted it. And then I just put a tick mark here where I would cut it off to be in just about the same amount there. And then I did the same thing, going across and then going up and down. I did the same thing. So I just put the paper on there about, where I wanted it to go down extra and then put another tick mark there. So you don't have to measure it. But you need 4 of these because you need, 2 for each side. So since this is thin paper and I don't want to have to, well, actually, I don't know, maybe I can get 4. I don't know if I can get 4 out of one of these little sheets of paper or not. It looks like I can. So I'm going to cut them all at the same time to save time rather than cut them out one at a time. Okay. Now there are some fold lines, so I'll have to cut those open, but I'll cut the side one open first. You just need a little sliver, not much, just enough to open those up. And so what did I say that was going to be? 2 and 1 7/8. Right there. So actually I could have just done it that way. 1 7/8 by 2 7/8. See, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there. All right. So now we should have 4. Crinkle that up a little bit. We should have 4 pieces. Oh, they're very long. Need to cut them down some. So here's what I'm going to do. They're just fine widthwise, but up and down, I cut them too long. So I'm just going to put this right here. I'm going to make a mark right here. Put them all together and recut. Because we can always recut. I like to cut from the bottom when I'm sitting here like this. It makes it easier for me to see because it's right in front of me. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to round all the corners. And again, this is really thin paper, so there's no need to separate them out. And again, I am not going to ink these. I don't think they need it. So what we're going to do is just glue these down. And if the margins for the black don't come out exact, if you're like me, measuring is really hard, and they don't come out exact, but you know what? Nobody's going to notice that. Nobody at all. They're going to be so excited about, the card. Nobody's going to scrutinize it that closely. And if they do, they need to learn how to make this stuff so they can make it perfect. Perfect. Oh, it's a little close on the edge there, but that's okay. All right, so there's those two. And then we're going to do these two. And there's really no up or down on this pattern, so you don't have to worry about directionality. I had one piece on my last one that I had to do it in a certain, the little flaps had to be, there was an orientation there. And that was kind of a pain in the neck. So I would recommend getting yourself some pattern paper that can go on. Either way can be the top because it'll make your life a whole lot easier. All right. Almost done. All right. So there we go. There we have that. And we've got the insides. We've got the insides there. Now, what do we do here? Here we're going to put our writing paper. And I have got, I can see it here. I've got the leftover piece from what I used last time, but maybe I'll just do, it's going to be enough. There it is. So with this one, what you do is take your writing paper. So I have this piece of paper. Take your writing paper and hold it down a little off of the fold. You don't want it to be right up on top of the fold here. And then go down to the bottom and go a little bit up from the bottom and fold your paper up. And then fold it back down again. Okay? So when we open this notepad, we're going to grab this bottom part and it's going to pull down. Okay? And so I just took a whole sheet of paper knowing I was going to make more than one of these. And I just took care of the whole thing. So now all I have to do is cut this the width that I want it. Oh, I'm making a mess here. If I have a craft lunch, it's because everything started falling down. Let's just trim this off here. Now, you can do a couple of things here. If you want to ink the edges, you can. If you want to round the corners, you can. Okay, so I did round the corners in mine so that they match, they match the rest of the piece. That didn't work. I almost got to do this upside down so I get it right. So we'll do this. And you can ink around it if you want. I did not. And then you want to, put it down on here so that you grab the bottom and pull it down. Okay? Then flip it over on the back and we're going to glue that whole thing down. we've got one more thing to do and we're done. All right. So there we go. You could put some little fairies on here. You could do anything, basically. So there we are. Now, the last thing to do is to decorate these, the top of these circles. And I chose to use this real bright, that's not my punch. What am I doing with my punch? I chose to go with the real bright All right. So we have this. We are going to fold it in half. And then we're going to cut it and then put it on over this black strip so that it's, just going to cut this one with the scissors and hope I can cut straight enough. I am just so terrible with the scissors in cutting straight, but you know what? I can fussy cut like nobody's business. I love to fussy cut. All right. So we're going to put this one here. We're going to put this one here. Okay. We want to get those to line up as close as possible, just like we did with the black circles. So I'm going to put that as close to the middle, whoops, as I can get it. We're not going to leave a black border on this one. I guess I should have lined up the seams a little better. All right. Now, again, you can go through here and put, like, for example, let me show you something. If you wanted to, let me get my flowers out here. You could take, I have to get one that was fairly sturdy so it would, not break off. But I know I have some. Here we go. Not quite the right color. That one's probably too big. Here's some nice pink ones. So I could take a flower, this nice, fairly large one down here at the bottom. Of course, I want the one at the very bottom. And we can put it on here, but what you have to do is only glue it on one side. Okay? Or you can just glue it on one side so that, oh, you know what? That's not going to work. That's not going to work. You'd have to put something on either side because it's got to be able to fold up in the middle. Silly me. But I've got some rub-ons. I could put some stickers or some rub-ons here. Any number of things that I might have. I don't know if I have a rub-on really handy, but hang on one second. Let's do one little bit of decorating. Or some flowers. Oh, I could use that one. Oh, we could use this little yellow one. And I'm whispering to myself again. I hate when I do that. I hate when I do it. All right, let's take a look here. Okay. Now, it's not all going to fit, but that's all right. Nobody's going to know but you and I. Okay. So that side's got that little flower. And you know what I do when I have like little bits hanging over is I'll take a little piece of sandpaper and just kind of rub around it. But look at that. Isn't that cute? And then let's see, what can we put on the other side? What can we put on the other side? I have another one of those yellow ones, but it's facing that way as well, so it wouldn't work quite right. Well, let's see here. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let's just grab something. This will also help to hide the fact that I was crooked on that that piece of wood, you know, where it went down the line was a little crooked. This will help to hide that. All right. Oh, come on. And you know, with your rub-ons, if they start to peel up, like they're not all the way down, just lay the transfer paper back down. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that a little bit because it went over the seam. So let's there, and then it went over right in the middle. And this is where I would use my little my little sanding stick. All right, so there's just a little bit of how you could decorate that. Look at that. Isn't that just the cutest thing ever? So that's it. I hope you found this useful. I hope you'll give it a try. I can't wait to make more of them. And, you know, if you don't like that it's not laying down completely, you could put a couple of those little tiny Velcro dots in there to have it stay down. I think over time, if you just sort of, you know, work with it and the paper works, I think it's going to stay down just fine. But that's it. And if you want to cover the backs of these with that same, you know, paper, you certainly can do that. But there it is, our little notepad. All right, everybody, that's it. Like I said, I hope you give it a try and let me know how it goes. If you like it or if you find any other shortcuts that you think would help with this, you know, let me know. And I think there was a lot of measuring, but I think once you get the hang of it, you can just eyeball it and put it together. You don't actually have to measure everything. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day and happy crafting, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.